It's so good to be with you. I'm sorry we can't be with you at Lake Geneva this year, but we're doing our best to bring you all that we can to offer to you. And I've been a breakout speaker for the last few years, and I get to be one this year too. But this year, my topic is when you're down to the last $10 and your cupboard is bare. It seems kind of appropriate for this year for some reason. And I wanted to tell you, I'm speaking from experience. My husband is a railroader, and he would be furloughed many years when we were first married. It was at least 5 years that we can remember that he was furloughed in our early years of marriage. We've been married now for almost 41 years, but he was furloughed for usually 2 to 3 months, but 1 year he was furloughed even a little bit longer. And we had saved money for these lean times, but you can only save so much when you're trying to catch up from the last furlough. So this 1 year, the furlough was really long. And I paid the bills, and we had $10 left for groceries for 2 weeks. And our cupboards were already bare. And $10 wasn't going to be enough. So what do you do, ladies, when you are down to your last $10 and your cupboards are bare? You go to Jesus. I went to Jesus on my knees and I prayed, Lord, what do I do? How am I going to feed my family for 2 weeks on $10, Lord? Show me how. And he did. One of the things he showed me, girls, is 2/3 of the parables that Jesus taught dealt with money. I read all of them, and I realized, even with all of those parables, that Jesus was the best investment I could make. And then in John 2:5, he showed me, do whatever he tells you. A lot of people say this is the most important verse in the Bible. When God tells you to do something, that you need to do that thing. And then in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave. So, on my knees, reading his word, praying, asking for direction, and I believe God told me what to do. He said, he challenged me to put that last $10 in the offering plate on church that Sunday. And I questioned him. Don't we all question him when he tells something that doesn't make sense in the world? Because it doesn't make sense in the world's math to give away our last $10. But that's what I did. As the offering came by, I put my last $10 in the offering plate. And then I watched it go down the end of the pew. It was out of my hands. It was no longer in any control of mine what would happen with that $10. And then I gave it spiritually to Jesus, and I listened to the sermon. So church was over. My husband and I picked up our kids from their classes, walked out to the car, got into the car, and my husband turned to me and said, can you believe this? Some guy that we hardly even knew felt that he was supposed to give us a check for $125. And he gave it to us right after I had been obedient and gave money in the offering plate for what God told me to do. Now, I'm not telling you to go and give your last money to church. Do not take that advice. That is not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that you need to do what Jesus is telling you what to do. That was what Jesus told me to do. If we are to do whatever he tells us to do, then we need to listen and obey. For God so loved the world that he gave. He taught me how to give, and I gave. And he gave abundantly. I no longer had $10 for groceries. I had $125 for groceries for 2 weeks. And this was a couple of decades ago. $125 for groceries was plenty for our family of 4. One other thing that I wanted to explain in this breakout is food insecurity. Obviously, we had experienced food insecurity in those times. And I kept a notebook. You can now use apps. There's a lot of different apps where you can keep track of the grocery stores and their lowest prices, their lowest regular prices. So then when you see a sale, you know when it's on sale, truly or not. So I kept track of my regular items that I bought at the grocery store. Then once a week, was Wednesdays at our house in Iowa, we would receive a free newspaper. It was called The Reminder, I think, back in those days. And they would have all of the flyers for the grocery store sales. And I would scan all the sales, and then I took inventory once a week of everything in our pantry, our freezer, and our refrigerator, and combined what I already had with the possibility of sales and what meals that I could make for the cheapest amount from my inventory and from what was being offered for sale. For example, there might have been a sale one week on tomato soup, and I bought 4 cans of tomato soup because it was a good sale. Another week, mayonnaise would be on sale, and I would purchase that. And then one day, eggs would be on sale. Now I have purchased all of the items I needed to make, except for, yes, milk and bread, to make tomato soup and egg salad sandwiches for a meal. It was the most inexpensive way I could find to keep feeding my family nutritious meals, yet really watching for sales. Most of the items go on sale every 6 weeks, and if you can afford to purchase the things that you will need in that 6-week time frame, so if you use 1 item per week, then you would need to purchase 6 items when they're on sale. It's a detailed thing. It's being responsible with our resources so we can feed our family. Another example, I have found a national discount store sells spaghetti sauce for the absolute cheapest. And then I go to that store and I stock up on spaghetti sauce. And then I found a local farmer that sells meat just a few cents less than the grocery store here in my town. There's not a big difference, but it's healthier. And so it's just keeping track of all of the prices for everything, and keeping track of your inventory in your pantry, your freezer, your refrigerator, and then also being a little bit, you really have to plan your menu weekly. So part of keeping the grocery bill low is to manage what you've already bought. Food waste is a huge issue for the vast majority of us. So another thing that I did to stretch our budget is really keep tabs on leftovers in the refrigerator and what's been opened and not completely eaten. As a stay-at-home mom, for me, those were my lunches because it was the thing that was the cheapest to eat, is the leftovers. Yes, moms were always doing so much more to sacrifice, but for me, eating leftovers and serving leftovers before I had to throw them out was just a wise way of using our resources. Does this work for everyone? I'm sure it doesn't. Not everybody likes leftovers. I had some finicky kids that turned their noses up at leftovers. And I gave them the option to not eat for that meal. But also, I have a few more things I wanted to share with you. I suggest you go online and peruse a few Frugal Mom sites. They're called Frugal Mom. There's a whole bunch of bloggers that use that title. And knowledge is power and passion is key. These moms have the knowledge to share their knowledge and their passion so that you can start the flame of your own frugal lifestyle. Specifically, there's a frugal mom here in Minnesota that shares what entertainment options are on sale in the area. This is nice to know. I suggest you try following her and several other of the Frugal Mom blogs. We also have some moms posting about financial tips on the Bridging the Gap blog. And read these tips as you follow these frugal moms. See if their writing is something that makes sense to you, something that you can agree with. Sign up for many of them and then weed them out and unsubscribe as you go. But if you have been struggling in this area, you need to follow a bunch of these bloggers to get as many tips as possible so that you can increase your knowledge and you can increase your spending power when your cupboards are bare and you're down to the last $10. We love you guys. We're praying for you. And stick around for more on this site. Thanks so much.